Hello and welcome back to DIY Willy. Well, today I was going to work on the Samurai. Had some things I wanted to do to it, but my son's going to take the Frontier to the desert soon in another week or so, and well, there's a couple things we wanted to do to it. The first thing we want to do is the axle vent mod. This mod's been around for a while. Everyone pretty much knows about it. There's a lot of videos online on how to do it. There's even a few true DIYs where they use a Toyota barb fitting in the axle and run the hose up, into the inner fender to vent the axle. The reason for doing this is these axle vents, they can get dirty, they can get clogged up, they can get rusted closed, and what happens is the axle doesn't have a way to vent or expel its gases as it gets warm. So when it doesn't have a place to expel the gases, well, the gases are going to build up and they're going to find the point of least resistance, which is usually one of the axle seals, and it blows out a seal and you wind up with a leak. So it's an easy mod to do. You just take the vent cap off, you unscrew it, and you screw in a barb fitting and run some hose up into the inner bed side behind the right rear tail light, and attaches a filter up there. You kind of zip tie it in place so it doesn't move around or rattle. Of course, you're going to leave a lot of hose down on the bottom for articulation of the axle, and it just moves the vent up out of the way, of harm's way, for it won't get any moisture in it. It doesn't get rusty closed, it doesn't get dirt in it, whatever. It's just a good, simple mod to do. Like I said, it's not just the regular threads. It's not MPT type threads where you can just run to your local home supply store and buy a barb fitting and screw it in. It's actually a different thread from what I understand. And there's a Toyota piece, a barb piece, factory piece that will fit in there. I don't have the part number on. I'll try to find it and put it in the description. That is said to screw in there, and then you just get a section of 1/4-inch hose and run it up to where you need it with any type of filter. Usually a fuel filter works fine, or if you want to spend a little extra cash, you can get those little small filters like what I'm going to use. I'll show you later on what that is. And there's also a few kits out there. PRG Products makes one that's a really nice kit. It uses a K&N filter, and Greg there at PRG makes good stuff. And it's, like I said, it's just a simple bolt-in. And then the one that I bought, we'll open it now and take a look at it. The one that I chose to get comes from Off-Road Gorilla. And the reason I chose Off-Road Gorilla is their kit was a couple bucks cheaper with free shipping. Well, anything you can save helps everywhere. So because this was free shipping, I went with this rather than the PRG Products thing. It comes with this filter, which is basically a fuel filter. I'm going to install this filter. Just put a barb in it. In the end, I had these barbs already. I'm just going to put this in there. It comes with several feet of hose, some zip ties, and then of course the specialty barb fitting with the end on it, and several types of hose clamps. No instructions, but really you don't need it. You're just going to take the old fitting out, put this fitting in, run the hose where you want it up here behind the light. Of course, you're gonna have to take the light out. Excuse me. Making sure you leave enough hose from the axle to the frame for the articulation of the axle when you're doing off-road. My son does a lot of off-roading and a lot of off-camber type stuff, and articulation it's important that there's enough hose there to travel with the axle. So yeah, with that said, I guess we'll start the install. We'll find out the sizes. I believe this is a 12mm. And the one on the axle, I think, is a 14. We'll find out right now. We'll make sure. All right. Let's get going. All right, here we are underneath the truck, the axle. This is the axle breather I was showing. I've gone ahead and pre-cleaned the area to make sure we get rid of any of the loose dust and dirt, rust, all that kind of stuff. I don't want stuff falling inside the axle hole. This one seems to be in pretty good shape. I mean, it still turns, it's not seized up or locks. We have no sign of any leaking on the axles, so I don't believe there's any problem here. Kind of preventative. We've caught it before there is a problem. So it's a 14 millimeter to loosen that up, take it off. There we go. We'll get it off, take it out, and then we can stick the barb fitting in. Oh, use the wrench. Okay, now the new barb fitting will go back into the same hole, and it is a 12 millimeter. So we'll screw it down and then we'll tighten it up. I have a deep 12 millimeter socket. Alright, so we've got the barb fitting in. I've tightened it down pretty good. It's really tight. It's not all the way to the bottom, but it is really tight. I don't want to strip out those threads. So now we'll get the hose and we'll attach the hose. So I've got the hose attached to the barb fitting. The clamp is tight. You can see I've run the hose along with the brake line and zip tied it to keep it close with the brake line. We don't want it getting next to the muffler or to the exhaust and burning the hose. So I ran it up and along the frame. You can kind of see it coming along the frame here, and then we'll go ahead and remove the tail light and take it up through the tail light from underneath. Okay, let me get up there and do that. So the next part of this install is to take the tail light out. We've got two 10 millimeter or they're Phillips head, but honestly they're too tight, I think, for Phillips head. We'll just use the 10 millimeter wrench and we'll take them out. The light has those two bolts and then two little plastic push pieces in the grommets. Just give it a little tug and it'll pop right out. Alright, so here's inside where the light is. We're going to bring the hose right up through there, bring it up here, and zip tie it to there's something in the back there. Out of the way. Alright, let me get the hose. So all I've done to my filter is I've stuck the hose. So all I've done to my filter is I've stuck the hose clamp on. I stuck the barb in. Mine, however, is a 1/8 or something like that thread, so it's a little bit small for the area. But if you take it down to where the bolt part of the where you use the wrench and stick it in there like so, you can tighten it up on it, and it's not going to come out. The rubber will tighten up and seal around that hex part of it where you use the wrench. Just tighten it up good, and it's not going to come out of there. It's now one. Now if we were using if we were using theirs, we could take it out and cut the hose, put this in line with the hose. You know, I guess you would put a piece on the bottom, put the hose clamp, tighten it up, paying attention to the arrow of flow maybe. I don't know if that would really be important, but I would do that anyway. I just follow the flow, and then I would attach a piece of hose to the other end just to make it a finished product. They give you enough hose clamps to do that, so probably be a good idea. I think it needs more. I think the kit needs more zip ties personally, but they give you 4 and I'll probably use 6. So I'm not going to use this one though. I'll probably use this on my Volkswagen. It's a nice filter. I'll probably take the plastic fuel filter I have on my Volkswagen and put this in its place. It's a nice filter. But for this mod, like I said, we're going to use this one, and it's going to work perfectly. So let me show you what I've done. Okay, so I brought the hose up through the opening between the bed sides, and I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to attach the filter right here. I'll probably put a zip tie down here on the bottom, and if I can find a way to zip tie up here somewhere or secure it, I'll find a way. But yeah, I mean, it's a really simple mod. Now let me see what I can do right now. All right, so here's what I did. I brought the hose up through the inner fender, brought it up, and to keep it up tall, I zip tied it to the wiring harness. Now it doesn't interfere with getting the light out. You can still easily get the light out, and it'll hold the filter up to the top. Now all I gotta do is put the light back in, put the 10mm screws back in, and we'll be good to go. Okay, so there it is back in, and we're going to reinstall the light. Let's just make sure the hoses and the wires are out of the way. I'll line up the little pin right there and give it a push. See if I can do it with one hand. There we go, I got it. Now we'll just put back the two 10mm screws. Go ahead and go to the bottom and clip the little pigtails off the wire ties, and we're done. Okay, so there's the light back in. Doesn't affect the way the light mounts. The hose in there. Oh, what's all that? Dirt. Now we'll take a look at the bottom. There's the hose ran, goes up inside the inner fender, or the inner bed side rather, across the top. We come across the top right there, down. We're zip tied to the brake line. I figured that's the best way to install it. That way it'll travel with the brake line. The brake line is more rigid, kind of keeps it off the exhaust. There's where it goes into the axle, and it's all tight and secure. There we go. I'm just going to cut the ends off these zip ties like that, and there it is. That's the vent mod to the Frontier axle, and it went easy. It's a simple thing to do. It literally, if I wasn't holding a camera and trying to get it all on camera, it probably would have took me 10 minutes to install it. But trying to explain it and show what I'm doing, it takes a little more time. But it's done, and that's another successful DIY Willy project. This is something we've been wanting to do for a while, and now it's done. So here pretty soon, we got some parts on order. We got to change out these shocks. This one on the passenger side is broken and leaking, so we're going to change out the two rear shocks for some reservoir shocks, and we're going to put some new bushings on the steering rack. But those parts are all on order, and well, we just wait for them to come in. Also, he's going to install a pedal commander, and we'll get that in probably in the next video, whenever that comes in from the mail too. So thanks for watching, thanks for coming, and see you next time.